Alright, this is AEIX. AX is spawn room entry. Alright, so I'm gonna mute the video, I'll mute the sound just so it's easier to hear me. Because as much as there is background sounds to this, there is the soundscape transition between the two areas. That seems to be pretty much the only sound that I can tell, unless, I do like the S&D display or whatever it's called, and it shows all the sounds being played, but I don't really notice anything. Anyway, so feedback really quick. I would say the biggest feedback I have is that a lot of transitions between textures or areas or even just like detail, how come this doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of that? Like I can see that from down here, that it doesn't that this support pillar just awkwardly crescents upwards. There's a lot of weird kind of transitions. I guess that's also no draw I can see from down here. But I mean transitions in this sense, right? You got concrete here, and then sitting, if this is a concrete wall, why is there just dirt above it? You could say, oh well, that's it was built into to make it look like a concrete base from the outside, but it's actually a Spytek base on the inside. Well, you could say that, but would you say that? Anyway, so yeah, awkward transitions like that. So you would make you'd cut this brush along here, and you'd make this brush right here, at least the top of it, metal or something, and then put a little skirt on the bottom and make that metal. So it would make sense. It's not just going from just concrete immediately to dirt. There'd be almost an area right in front of the door that is metal, at least on the bottom, especially going right into the spawn room, because you do have concrete. I guess that could make sense if this is a concrete wall that's just branched off of the bricks here. I guess that could, it was just painted over. I don't really know how you paint concrete, to be honest. But this is a weird transition too, where you have a Spytek-y floor, and on one side of the room you have this Spytek-y walls, which kind of look like they're stretched a little bit. They just look like they're you look here, it looks like it's stretched, right? So I hope you didn't fit to wall at any time, because it does look kind of like it's stretched. Anyway, but you have this weird transition where you have Spytek, tile, and then concrete. This looks really, really strange. This. Why didn't you just put Spytek along this wall too? Why did it suddenly change into this weird texture? If it's because you used... No, I guess you didn't. Never mind. Anyway, yeah, that looks kind of weird. If it was for the, to imitate the theme of it being a concrete cold base, you probably could have utilized that, elsewhere. Maybe using this Spytek wall, you could have split the brush right here along the red strip, and then made the top, instead of being this weird concrete, this painted concrete, you could have made that this bricky concrete, and then had the strip, the red and black, along all of the walls, if you wanted to keep that cool concrete theme in. Of course, you probably noticed that this door is not flush as it's supposed to be. It looks kind of stretched as well, and that's just because you probably tried to fit it to some brush before placing it in. So when you find that texture in here, I'll do monitor capture, and I'll bring up my paint here. So you see this, if I can size it up, in Hammer you'll find this kind of door on this black space, and that's because this door by itself is the proper size of the door. So you have the door in the black space, and then what you do is you split the brush along the top, and you split along the side, and you have this perfectly textured door, and then you just drag it into place, etc. If you still had those brushes on the sides, then I guess you could texture them accordingly. But yeah, that's how it is. This is a properly the aspect ratio is good on that door, is what I'm trying to say. as opposed to this one, which looks like it's, you know, bigger than it was supposed to be. This chalkboard, probably a little too close to the wall. I guess you have kind of a weird transition between vents in the room. You know, there's nothing like where the vent is going into, it's just going directly into the concrete. I think in 2 Fort, they'll have something like, it has like a base. So it's like, maybe if I can open paint again. I'll just delete this and this. It's like in 2 Fort, they'll have a vent, but then the vent goes into something before it goes into the wall. You know, it has like this kind of base connector that the vent goes into. As opposed to yours, where it just goes directly into the concrete everywhere. It looks a little like you just filled a space rather than you used detail to tell, like, you know, to show a theme, right? Same over here, and same with the outside too. Oh yeah, over here it's like you have metal vent that is somehow penetrating concrete, like big hefty duty concrete blocks, and you have just like thin tiny sheet metal penetrating that. That doesn't really seem realistic. You probably could have detailed this a little bit better. I think I see like a you know, a clip in the brushes here where it just looks like you probably could have held, like you left click on a brush, you hold Alt, and then you right click every brush side next to it, and it'll just kind of like dynamically align those textures up to what this one was, so that you don't get this weird kind of like break in the texture. So you do that along these brushes. Yeah, you probably could have had better transitions here. Even the vents, like, why are the vents even here? If you really did need vents between two concrete buildings, you'd have like, at least it goes into like wood or something, and then maybe you have it like leaking because it's so cold out here. Or you know, it really does kind of feel like you just filled a space here. If you really did fill a space, maybe you can look like it really did fill a space, like Tetris-y. You just like place like hoses in the center and like just random pile of garbage in here. I guess these don't fit the track. You probably were like, yeah, oh well. I think what you can do is, if you made these props a prop dynamic, it has a model scale key value, and if you did up like ×2 model scale, it would like, you don't get a preview in Hammer, but if you compile it, you'll see that it's like 2 times as big. It would have taken a little bit longer to, you know, align those properly if they were model scaled, because it would take a while to preview it. But you could try doing something like that, where like, is there like a cut for some reason? Yeah, that's weird. You have like a break or a seam in the tracks, and then the tracks don't really go anywhere. I know that there's like a an end piece to tracks where you have like, or even you could have just built one out of like brushes, but I know that there's something like a stopper for train tracks. I don't know what it's called. You'll have to find it in the mining prop library. But yeah, you could have had like ×2 scaled tracks that just go in through this door. That probably would have looked a little bit better than how it does now, especially here, because like this big train is like way taller than this doorway. But how come, and like, if this is the big thing here, how does this big ass, like, what is this, like at least 20 feet long, how does that turn through here? How does that turn through this tiny thing without like destroying its sides? And then how does it turn again and go through the smaller size door? I don't think you'd even have the turn in here. I don't think it would move at all. You know what they would probably do if they had this? It would go on like a platform, and then they just have like a big elevator that loads up the entire platform from like above. They just like drop it in, and then they'd slide it forwards. It looks like this couldn't just turn so easily across through here. If you're thinking, oh, and yeah, it looks like you have like a truck down here, but why are the lights on like the floor? It looks like the truck is like embedded in the dirt. You know what I mean? Like, why would the lights be right next to the floor? Like, I can see that they'd be here. If you really did want to show that the lights were there, if you put them up to where they're supposed to be on the truck, which is like right there, as opposed to right down here, I think I would have been able to tell, oh, it's a truck in there, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, so just kind of weird sorts of details. It kind of looks like you didn't use final lighting pass on here because the transition of lighting between these two brush sides is a little harsh. You probably could have made the transition between the rock and the concrete here just a little bit better, because this is a detail contester after all. You probably could have put like a frame around it, or you could have put something at least on this side, or you could have put like something on it, like vent ports or something, or like some lights, you know, like some outdoor lights, like the ones that like hang out or something. Just like, you know, they wouldn't be turned on, but if you ever had like an alarm go off in this space, you could have had like, you know, lights for alarms, stuff like that. Yeah, the path between here, if this is the main path out of the spawn room and this is just like detail transition space, you probably could have made that look a little bit more natural, like worn, like maybe from the thing we talked about, how there's like some sort of, you know, lobby, or what's the word? There's some like French word for something, I don't know, there's something out in front of the area. If you had something like that that just kind of naturally flowed in this direction, or even if you had like an actual, instead of dirt everywhere, you had just like, you had dirt in here, but then you had like an actual break in the texture, and then this was like dusty concrete or something. You probably, that could have looked kind of cool, because it would have had like a transition. It's kind of fine. I guess it doesn't really make a lot of sense why it is so rocky in here, other than just being rocky. Oh, and one more final thing before I finish off the video is that in this room here, I guess you would assume that this door leads into that room, but you maybe could have like pulled this door inwards just a little bit more to make it look like that door does lead into there, because at the moment it looks a little tight. You probably couldn't really tell as a player, but you kind of do. I guess it also kind of doesn't make sense that you have like blue textured, you know, whatever, in a red base. That's not really a big deal. Oh, and this is kind of a big deal. The flashing, the Z fighting on the, this like mail slot or whatever it's called. You just, like, it looks like it's flashing, so that's not good. You just pull it away. If you hold Alt while you have something selected in the 2D view, and then you can move something without grid snapping. So if you wanted to move it just like a pixel away from the wall, then yeah, then that's how you do that. You just hold Alt while you have it selected and you move it. I guess it doesn't also kind of make much sense that you just have like wooden crates stacked on top of a dirt ground. You know, they'd probably be on top of something, not to like sink into the ground. They'd be on like a wooden platform or a metal platform or something, you know, like pallets or something, just so it's not like, it looks like the transition of texture, of color between dark brown and like light brown or even gray, it's pretty jarring of a transition. It looks really like those are unnaturally placed, you know, not just in the lighting of TF2, but just like generally, you know. You want that natural AO bake to occur. Otherwise, your displacements are pretty good. A lot of the use is spotlights. The lighting is a little bit bare bones up there, a little white, you know, but that's probably fine. There are a lot of like nitpicks and stuff, but like these are things that I would have changed on my own, and I would have kind of expected to see. You know, it looks a little incomplete generally. So I think if you did those things, it would help a lot with like, you know, putting forward a theme and then, you know, representing that in the environment. This room looks a little bare bones. It kind of looks like you have like stairs that lead up here, and then some dude would be like pointing to a room full of people. You know, this is where we're going, and that's where the guys are, and here's where our team would be setting up shop before we go in. Is the entire world reversed? Yeah, okay. I don't know exactly how you'll fix that. Just like take the brush and rotate it 180 and then texture this side as opposed to the other side, just so it's not like, I guess it doesn't really make sense because you could say, oh, well, it's not Earth, it's like whatever. Anyway, yeah, if some guy's just pointing to a map in here, who is he pointing it to? You know, there's no like seats in here, there's no like nothing that he's pointing to, just a room full of standing people. You know, there's not even like a desk. They go, okay, let's go into this room. It's pointing at the map. Everyone got that in their brains. Okay, let's leave. You know, like they don't even have like a table or a set of files or like a map on the table or anything. They don't have any like storage space. Like I know that there's probably like a keyboard or button on here, but like you couldn't. You'd want it to be kind of messy and workable, you know, like believable that this is an environment that people would actually use in a spy techie sort of setting. But if it's just like, let's go in there to look at the map, okay, let's leave, like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess that's it. Yeah, the transition between the vents in the room probably could have been done a little bit better. Generally more spy techie sort of stuff. You could have made like, maybe in this room you could have put like small grates, really small grates, like this size, you know, there, and then also one like here, and then from this window you see through the grates, and there's like this size room placed underneath this size. I don't know if you would have had room for that in your detail environment, maybe you wouldn't have had, but like you see through grates and you just see lighting underneath the room, you know, like cables stretching back and forth underneath the servers and stuff, just so it kind of makes the space or this ground between the two rooms feel less flat, like it's not just a flat ground, like it has some depth to it, you know, cables stretching back and cool lighting of red lighting. Maybe you could have done the same with like closed off grates over there, or maybe even had like this grate open but this grate closed off, or like like something standing on top of the grate with the table on top and the messy stuff on top of there. I think that would have looked kind of cool. The spotlights are a little bit harsh, white, you know what I mean? Probably could have tinted them a little bit, or even like raised them more into the roof and put like a better transition between like something is holding them, like a metal something or other. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I'll say. Alright, that was a lot longer than I thought it would be, so there's some general detail tips. Just kind of make it look like a believable environment. Alright, see ya, dude.